Hey everybody, this is Chi-Wiz, and I'm just here to update the FireFly video with you. And we've got some really pretty exciting developments. Going to see how the FireFly works with a variety of pots and see some of the new options. But first let me just show you the stove itself. So this is the FireFly as it might be in your pack. As you can see, it's very flat, probably a total depth of about 1/4 inch. It now comes standard with a very heavy-duty 8mm Ziploc bag that works very well to carry it. If you want to, as an option, I still carry a reinforced Tyvek pouch. This pouch has a Velcro closure and is reinforced with some fiberglass mesh so that the stove can go in, and there's actually more room in here than there is in the 8mm Ziploc for other things other than the stove. Anyway, that's the Tyvek pouch. It's an option if you want it. Let's see how the stove goes together. So basically there are 4 sides, and they go together with a tab and slot mechanism. Very easily, you could do this with gloves. These sides are made out of titanium sheets. One of the new developments is that the FireFly is now laser cut, so everything is a little bit more consistent and predictable. The last slot, you just have to flex the stove a little bit and put that in place. And then the stove still has room to move, but once you put the stainless steel mesh floor in, it tightens everything up. And that goes in at an angle, and you just push it down. And then the stove is very snug and tight and easy to move around and move to a different place. Anyway, the stove as it stands will work well with a lot of pots. So for example, this is a 900 ml Evernew pot. This will go on top without any trouble. MSR Titan kettle would be very similar to this. And many medium-sized pots would go on the stove without any difficulty. Some people are using small cooking mugs or even beer can mugs. And depending on how big these are, for instance, this Foster's one goes on without any trouble. But if you have something that's too small to span the 3 1/4 inch width of the FireFly, I do supply as standard items these small pot supports. And they just go in the stove from side to side across the stove to form an X. So let me just show you how that works. And there you go. So you have a nice X in the stove, and anything that's too small to fit without that will go just fine on top. So that's how the small pot supports work. On the other hand, if you have a pot like this 1.3 liter Evernew, or even a smaller pot that has a very wide bottom, it has a better burn if it's a bit higher off the firebox. So to accomplish that, I have large pot supports that also come standard with the stove. The large and small pot supports are all made out of titanium, and these go in the same way as the small pot supports. And what they do is they add an extra depth to the firebox, or an extra height above the firebox for a larger pot. But what the FireFly is actually more famous for is what I call a flex port, which is this door. So if you want to get the flex port option, which is very popular, you'll get a 4th side of the stove that instead of being plain has this door that swings up and out and can open up. So it can either be closed or open. And a lot of people like this because it allows you to feed in longer pieces of wood when you want to do a longer burn or a slower burn, simmering a stew, dry baking, grilling, what have you. And the flex port allows you to do that when you want to, and when you don't want to, it allows you to close it up and have a regular FireFly just like you'd have it normally. The FireFly can be lit in at least 3 ways. So one way is through the bottom, so that would be a loose fill of twigs, maybe over some tinder and light it from the bottom. You can also load it up with wood and light a small fire on top that works its way down through the wood. That's a very nice technique to reduce smoke. And you can also light it from the side through the flex port if you like. When you're using a flex port, one of the things that some people like is to reduce bottom ventilation, and so there's an optional notched titanium floor that you can put in either on top of or in place of the stainless steel floor. And what that does is it reduces bottom ventilation through the stove so that when you're using the flex port, you can kind of have a slower controlled burn. So that's the FireFly stove with flex port option. You can go on my site to see lots of other options for the stove, including a multi-fuel option, an ultralight Esbit-only burner, a bake kit, and even a small titanium grill to grill steaks on. And you just can do a lot with this little stove out on the trail. So take care and good hiking to you.